In 2004, Pop-Tarts began the now iconic Crazy Good advertising campaign, which primarily focused on characters colloquially known as the Crazy Good Kids and their attempts to capture and eat giant sentient Pop-Tarts. I wanted to learn more about the fictional universe portrayed in these commercials, but there were not very many resources to be found, and the ideal resource, the Pop-Tarts wiki, was in pretty rough shape. So, after reviewing all the Crazy Good Pop-Tarts commercials I could find, I present to you Pop-Tarts Lore Analysis. There is not a single commonly used phrase to identify the world portrayed in these commercials. Pop-Tart Planet, Crazy Good World, and Pastryverse were all considerations. But for simplicity's sake, I will simply refer to the fictional universe portrayed in the Crazy Good Pop-Tarts commercials as the PCU, or the Pop-Tart Cinematic Universe. Generally speaking, the PCU seems to mirror the real world for the most part. We see objects, buildings, and vehicles that appear to operate just like they do in our own reality. We also see activities that are familiar to us, like singing songs and shopping at convenience stores.
Well then, 2 big swigs on me.
She was really cool.
Where the PCU and the real world start to diverge is when we look at those who inhabit the PCU. There are 2 primary groups that make up the PCU, the Crazy Good Kids and the giant sentient Pop-Tarts. Almost every Crazy Good commercial involves one or more members of each of these groups. The kids' main objective seems to be to eat one or more of the giant sentient Pop-Tarts, while the Pop-Tarts' objective is usually to escape the kids. The kids succeed almost every time, usually through forms of trickery and deception. Occasionally there are other creatures found in these commercials, including birds, snakes, and even aliens. These creatures tend to be one-offs, only appearing in 1, maybe 2 commercials. But there are some reoccurring creatures, like this pink dog, and most notably, this green lizard. Their actions, similar to the actions of the Crazy Good Kids, tend to result in the capture and/or consumption of the tarts.
Groupies are easy.
If we were to create a social hierarchy of the PCU, it would be obvious to put the Pop-Tarts at the bottom, as they are constantly either hiding from or being eaten by the other inhabitants of the PCU. And above them would be the Crazy Good Kids, who are clearly shown as the primary dominant force towering over the Pop-Tarts. Just about everyone would agree with these placements, but the placements of the other creatures is a bit more tricky. The other animals tend to also be predatory to the Pop-Tarts, so it would seem fair to give them the same placement as the Crazy Good Kids. However, the 2004 commercial entitled Kangaroo paints a slightly different picture.
You ate my Pop-Tart! Nobody takes my Pop-Tarts!
Here we see a kangaroo eat one of the Crazy Good Kids' Pop-Tarts. The Crazy Good Kid seems to be shocked by this occurrence, and retaliates by somehow retrieving the stolen tart in its original uneaten form, leaving the kangaroo looking defeated and demoralized. This scene leads me to believe that the kids actually hold a level of authority above the other animals of the PCU, so I would place the animals between the kids and the tarts. But there is one clear example of an animal that holds a status above even the Crazy Good Kids, and that is the green lizard. Let's observe.
Ah! They're gonna eat me! Hide me! Hide me! Hide me!
They'll never look here.
Where's that cinnamon roll?
Thanks!
Too easy.
This 2005 commercial entitled Cinnamon Rolls Are Easy begins with a frantic Pop-Tart on the run, begging the green lizard to show him a hiding place. The lizard obliges, and gestures towards a giant, inconspicuous toaster. The lizard then misdirects the Pop-Tart's pursuers. He reveals his intentions as he activates the toaster, preparing the Pop-Tart as his own meal. The Crazy Good Kids realize they have been duped and look in angrily from the window. But, unlike in the previous kangaroo example, example, they do not retaliate, and the lizard remains in complete control of the entire situation. The Crazy Good Kids' refusal to retrieve their stolen tart leads me to believe that they find themselves intimidated by the lizard's presence. Even though he is much smaller and is presumably physically weaker than the kids, they do not dispute his decision on who will eat the tarts. Therefore, I believe the green lizard holds the top spot in the PCU hierarchy, as not even the Crazy Good Kids are willing to challenge his authority. The most interesting aspect of the PCU is the relationship between the Pop-Tarts and the Crazy Good Kids. They both seem to operate in the same society. The kids run the stores that the tarts shop at, and the tarts perform in fashion shows for the admiration of the kids. But at the same time, the tarts are ruthlessly hunted and eaten by the kids over and over and over again. This type of interaction between the two groups does not seem sustainable. And if the kids are such a constant threat, why don't the giant sentient Pop-Tarts leave them and form their own society, free from the clutches of the Crazy Good Kids? Maybe if we try to learn a little more about the Pop-Tarts themselves, we will gain a better understanding of their situation. The first big question I had when researching the giant sentient Pop-Tarts was, where do they come from? Are they the result of some tart-on-tart action, or do they reproduce asexually? Or are they manufactured like Pop-Tarts in the real world? Well, there is one commercial that seems to give insight into this quandary.
Coochie coochie coo! He so has your peanut butter.
Well, he's got your jelly.
Time for a feeding. Ah, jam it.
We have what seems to be a giant sentient jar of peanut butter and a giant sentient jar of jelly doting over their PB&J Pop-Tart offspring, which is promptly eaten by a Crazy Good Kid nurse. Let's try to unpack this. First, we can confirm that Pop-Tarts can be babies. This seems pretty reasonable. Second, this Pop-Tart is the offspring of the sentient jars of peanut butter and jelly. This is where things get confusing. The jars of peanut butter and jelly combine to form a PB&J Pop-Tart. Does this mean that the parents of Pop-Tarts are not fully grown Pop-Tarts, but are the ingredients that the Pop-Tart's flavor is based off of? So are the parents of a strawberry Pop-Tart two giant sentient strawberries? But then again, this baby tart's parents were not peanuts or grapes, but the processed butter and jelly versions of the foods. And not only the food, but the jar itself that the food is stored inside. So are the strawberry Pop-Tart's parents jars of strawberry jelly or jam or another processed strawberry derivative? And what are the parents of the jarred substances made of? And their parents? And their parents' parents? We could sit here and ask questions all day, but unfortunately there are no good answers, only sadness. There is also confusion to be found in the size of the Pop-Tarts themselves. They tend to be about as big as the Crazy Good Kids, but in some instances, such as this 2007 commercial entitled Cartwheel, they are much smaller.
97, 98, 99, 100. Whew. If you just keep moving, it ain't so bad. Woo. Who's up for cartwheels? Whee!
Uh-oh.
Gooey. Chewy.
So are there different variants of Pop-Tarts, both big and small? Also, most of the time the kids are eating Pop-Tarts, they eat small Pop-Tarts, even when they had just got done hunting down a giant Pop-Tart. Does this mean that they slice and dice the giant Pop-Tarts into smaller pieces? Or do Pop-Tarts have some sort of innate ability to change size? Does this ability activate upon their death? Also, this one kid has a mouth on his stomach. I forgot to mention that earlier.
Happy belly!
So magic seems to exist in the PCU. Let's watch this 2005 commercial entitled Pop-Artica.
I am the genie of Pop-Artica! Okay, chop chop, 3 wishes.
I want a pet singing lizard.
Squee-doo-da-doo-wah, yo, call me.
I want the biggest box of Pop-Tarts in the world.
Kid, start wishing for a bigger toaster.
Part of this complete breakfast.
So we are met with a magical genie Pop-Tart that is able to create a familiar looking green lizard and a giant box of Pop-Tarts. So, Are boxed Pop-Tarts different from the sentient Pop-Tarts? Do regular Pop-Tarts like our Pop-Tarts exist as separate entities from the giant sentient Pop-Tarts? Or are sentient Pop-Tarts shoved into boxes to be sold on store shelves? Also, the green lizard tells the kid to wish for a bigger toaster, insinuating that the giant box does contain giant Pop-Tarts. But as we previously saw, when the kids hunt down giant Pop-Tarts, they are frequently shown enjoying regularly sized Pop-Tarts, indicating either that the size of Pop-Tarts is variable, or that the kids cut giant Pop-Tarts down to resemble smaller ones. Either way, a bigger toaster wouldn't be necessary. There are at least 2 recorded instances of giant sentient Pop-Tarts eating other giant sentient Pop-Tarts.
Put us in the freezer!
We're trapped.
We'll never make it alive!
We must.
We can't!
We can.
How?
First, we need food.
But what?
Wow!
No.
Hey, guys.
Oh!
Why?
Oh!
Why? What's the matter?
So, do Pop-Tarts taste so good that not even the Pop-Tarts themselves can resist the temptation? Is this what drives the crazy good kids? Some Pop-Tarts commercials have multiple variations. This fashion show commercial features a hot chocolate Pop-Tart,
Here comes hot chocolate, looking dashing as ever.
but a version also exists with the strawberry shake Pop-Tart.
How do you do it, strawberry shake?
The same goes for the commercial we looked at earlier featuring the green lizard. One version has a cinnamon roll Pop-Tart,
They're gonna eat me.
while the other has a strawberry Pop-Tart.
They're gonna eat me.
Some speculate that these commercial variations indicate that the PCU is actually a multiverse. Or maybe assets were just reused to save money. Who knows? So, we've learned quite a bit, but I'm afraid what comes next will render all previous PCU knowledge obsolete. If you feel emotionally invested in any aspect of the Pop-Tart cinematic universe, I suggest you end this video now because something earth-shattering is about to be revealed. So, we already looked at this commercial when we were talking about the social hierarchy of the PCU, but there is an alternate version of this commercial. And no, I'm not talking about parallel universes. I'm talking about outtakes.
Kangaroo, take 5.
What's the line?
He's got one line. Cut! Take 19.
You!
Ate my Pop-Tart!
All right, cut.
Take 107.
That's right, there are outtakes for the kangaroo commercial. And that's not the only one. Check out this 2007 commercial entitled It's Alive.
My greatest creation, chocolate and vanilla flavors together. It's alive. It's alive.
Not for long.
And now the outtakes.
It's alive. Take 10. Cut. Take 31. Is it getting hot in here?
Cut.
Take 71.
Great. Just great.
Cut!
These outtakes make it clear that the commercials we see are not accurate glimpses into the PCU, but are staged, scripted encounters. Not only are they commercials in our world, but they are also commercials inside the PCU. So does that mean none of anything we've seen is a genuine representation of the PCU? Are all the crazy good kids actors? Are the giant sentient Pop-Tarts just pretending to be chased and eaten? Do giant sentient Pop-Tarts even exist, or are they just crazy good kids wearing costumes? I suppose this whole video analyzing the PCU was pointless. We have officially been bamboozled. While this revelation is certainly shocking, our study of the PCU is not entirely in vain. We have learned that we know far less about the PCU than we originally thought, but all of the information gathered up to this point is still correct. We just need to shift our focus. We do not know much about the Pop-Tart cinematic universe, but we have learned quite a bit about a cinematic universe within the Pop-Tart cinematic universe. The Pop-Tart cinematic universe, if you will. With this in mind, I will say thank you for joining me on this journey into not only the PCU, but the PCCU. Peace out.